What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 61 of our Dota On Demand podcast, focusing mostly on the Star Ladder finals, which were awesome. What is going on, man?
Thanks for that. It is a lovely, lovely Tuesday evening. Whoop! Wednesday? Wednesday! I'm so used to it being on Tuesdays that I forgot it's actually Wednesday. And you know what? Columbus Day messed that all up for us, I have to say.
I will actually say that I got mugged, and that's what messed up for me. So, A-okay, but may have had to spend some time replacing my belongings and that sort of thing. Other than that, though, I'm doing great.
Him and Bonk, friend of the show. You know.
And Bonk. Bonk also got mugged. Jay's next. They're going in the line. Anybody who's ever appeared on the show. So Sheever, Mott, head for the hills, get out while you can, sleep with a shotgun.
And Puppy.
That's what
well,
Bonk
he's
did.
listened. Puppy listens, so he has to be kind of careful.
That's true.
Just from association. But, yeah, we're back to prime numbers, thank God. That's all I have to say about that. That's literally the only thing I can think of with this episode number, is that it's a prime number. But, yeah, we're back a little, once again, a couple week in between. But, hey, no fret. Like he said, some personal issues kind of happened, and, you know, what can you do? But once again, it's kind of almost a blessing in disguise, because we've once again were able to capture more amazing stuff to talk about for this episode. So, in fact, it's just going to enrich the experience for you all. That's the, you know, it might sound like a BSer. I'm kind of in insurance. I deal with insurance every day in my business, but hey, you know, whatever gets us there. We are getting, by the way, I just want to give everyone props for all these YouTube loving comments. I'm ecstatic, frankly. Did not expect people to actually be catching on to this, but we are getting...
Especially because you regularly mispronounce everyone's
name. Everyone. Well, maybe they're looking for me to do that, and maybe that's just part of the fun, that I just cannot pronounce anyone's name. But yeah, we are getting all sorts, and we actually are using this for a lot of our content, guys, so please keep it up. You know, we're loving to see it. Also, so I'll just get started here with, oh, here we go. Your Rams are 4. That's probably it. First of all, thanks to We Love You Too. Thanks for loving the show. You also asked about our thoughts on a match. So I guess it's a pretty quick thing, so we'll just jump into it now. But you basically wanted to know what we thought of the Na'Vi versus Poseidon match, where basically there was a Ricky and Wisp combo, and it kind of did some death and destruction. So it was game 2 of the We Play tournament, and you want me to just kind of go over the details a bit?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so basically it was between Na'Vi and Poseidon. Well, I've already said that like 3 times. And Na'Vi ended up going with Io, the Darkseer, Enchantress, Pudge, and Ricky. Ricky being their last pick, all sneaky-like. Poseidon went the Weaver, Abaddon, Treant, Drow, and Troll. So there's a few things definitely want to jump into about this game, but as he kind of alluded to in his comment, the IOP was Ricky. And we've actually talked about this before, even when we talked about playing with our friends, and how you said you'd love to do that with our friend Terps. Just get that instant backstab, so that way the tether stun procs, and you're doing just massive damage with the overcharge. It's beautiful. But essentially, they kind of started snowballing out of control, and it was just so much early damage. And the fact that they also went for that aggressive tri-lane, they were able to just do massive destruction. And, I mean, granted, you look at the other team, definitely not your typical lineup, the Weaver, Abaddon, Treant, Drow, and Troll.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's particularly deadly about that game is, I mean, you have Drow, who needs to not have people jump directly on top of her.
Right.
You have a lineup that really builds really passively, of course, when you look at the rest of the lineup. I guess the Weaver can sort of kind of go in there as he pleases, but for the most part, you're expecting that lineup to sort of try and gather themselves, get a decent amount of farm up, get a couple core items, and then really start to come together, do damage, be able to kill heroes, sort of on the back of that Treant Protector, being able to give them the regeneration. The thing about the Ricky Wisp, I mean, like you said, I love it. It's a great combo, and even in one of the games we're going to talk about tonight, Game 4 between Na'Vi and Alliance, you have Io picked up by Alliance as their first pick, and one of the bans that Na'Vi bans out is Ricky, because that combo is so strong, being able to bring in somebody who can do a massive amount of damage and a silence. So it's not something we get to see all that often, but, I mean, clearly, it might just, you think, oh, gimmick that they're picking up this Ricky Wisp combo because, Navi is just that good. They think they can beat the other team that badly. No, I mean, clearly you look at Navi versus Alliance, you got some of the best teams in Western Dota going head to head, and Puppy's like, you know what, that's really scary. Let's not fight that.
No, exactly. It's something that's actually pretty respected. It's not too gimmicky. I mean, Ricky actually is can be one of the highest damage dealing carries if he's allowed to backstab constantly. Of course, with professional levels, vision is something that teams are not afraid to purchase up on their supports and even their carries and whatnot, just to give vision. And of course, with the dust buff to get that move speed slow, that makes Ricky that much easier to kill. But, in this game, the other thing that I just really wanted to get at, I remember talking to you about having Medusa, and if they send an aggressive tri-lane, like, oh, well, you can put Treant, you can put Abaddon, you can protect her, and things will be a problem. After seeing this game, I have definitely second thoughts about that now. Obviously, it's a very similar situation. Drow, Medusa, you can say pretty similar in that first 5 levels, how they're just kind of focusing on last hitting. I mean, at least Medusa has a little more utility with the snake, but even still, she's not going to do a great job, affording kills. This mana shield early is very weak. Her mana gets burned very quickly. And just when you're against something like that, Enchantress, who can just bring in 2 creeps in early that can tank the tower, they were diving nonstop, diving against a double protecting lane, and it just wasn't enough protection to get through it. Now, granted, the other problem is they had 2 heavy protectors who were both melee. So when they tried to pull the lane, they would just get harassed out by the 2 supports, and they couldn't even pull the lane, so they were underleveled severely, and there was really nothing they could do about it. So that really gave me second thoughts about wanting to run this really protective tri-lane, because I feel like maybe you need a little bit more of that, either crowd control or something like a range or something to help you out, as opposed to just double. Maybe it's just overkill for them.
Yeah, or at least you maybe have to look for a lineup that you already see that they're not going to run an aggressive tri-lane. They're poised to do something differently, and then you can run the dual lane, and then you have your Treant. He can just farm up the yellow camp if he wants to, or he can just be elsewhere on the map. But the other thing that makes that pick of the Ricky so cool is that the thing that sort of breaks Ricky is force staff. Like, oh, Ricky came out, so we force staff the person away, and now they're fine, and now we know where Ricky is. It's not a big deal. It's something you can pretty easily deal with. But nobody on that Poseidon lineup wants to build force staff. Nobody can really do it. I guess you could have your Treant do it, maybe, but he clearly doesn't want to. So I think that's just another strong reason why you would want to pick up the Ricky, because that's sort of the counter that really anybody can buy is an item that you really don't want to buy in this game, and you might not even be able to get to the point where you can afford it.
Yeah, I think honestly what they were expecting, I'm not sure they even expected the aggressive with the Enchantress. Maybe they were hoping it would just be Io and Ricky with the Enchantress in the jungle versus the Weaver, because Weaver offlane more or less is pretty darn safe. I mean, if he could react to that blink with the tether, yeah, he might get stunned, he might get silenced, but he probably should be able to survive at least the early with his Shishuki. But obviously, it got right in their faces. They weren't able to rotate because, well, you have Troll and you have Weaver. Early game, they're not going to help you too much with their rotations. It's really about them farming up their middle and side lane. So that really put them behind as well. It was a greedy lineup. Let's just put it that way. It was very greedy from side. They wanted to try, and I want to give it props. The Troll plus Drow plus Weaver is some nasty late game damage. I mean, the aura plus the alt speed, it's insane amount of damage they could have probably put out. With the 2 protective people wouldn't have died late game. But obviously Navi saw through that and said, okay, we're going to just punish you with this Pudge, with this Ricky, who got Orb of Venom after his Portman shields, to even make it that much more easier to kill people. And, yeah, they just really took the game. Actually, they won in about 11 minutes. So, well, the GG came out in 11 minutes. So, it was a pretty stomp fest kind of a game. But it's definitely fun to watch. I would suggest everyone just to, if you want to see an interesting method with that Io Ricky, I would definitely suggest it.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too that's I think important to point out in that is just like that's clearly like obviously you have to draft to win the early game, but that's so much on execution too, especially be able to close out in 11 minutes. I mean, obviously that's not even when I think you're in the pub games, you're like, oh, we got to close this out early, guys, like by the 35-minute mark probably. being able to just move around and take advantage of those hyper aggressive heroes and being able to get in their face before they can get levels on the treant, before it gets the number of instances up on the protection from his global. I mean, that's just so important, and clearly you have to be aggressive and put on that pressure from level 1.
Right, exactly. So it was just executed well by Na'Vi. Congratulations to them. We spent quite a bit of time already just on that one thing, but there you go. So a good start there. Scott Balfour gave us another comment. He just said he saw a game about Eternal Envy as a carry, and he changed his opinion. So you know what? There you go. You get more exposure, you watch more games, and sure enough, he probably listened to our influence, about
Of course.
everything we said. Was like, well, you know what? Those
We're
guys
very
are probably
influential.
right. They're 100% of the right 50% of the time. So I'm going to take that opinion to the bank. Also, some shout-outs to James Kennedy, who asked us a nice question that we're actually going to probably bank. Put that in our side pocket for...
Yes.
Side pocket? I don't know if I have a front pocket, but I'm going to put that in the side one that I have.
There you go.
And basically it's
bonus
asking
pocket.
about... it's the winner pocket. About heroes that weren't picked to TI3 in our opinion. So yeah, we're definitely going to get to that later, James. I appreciate the question. It's a really good one, too. And then Arvin Menahan, gave us quite a few. And in fact, he apparently likes the show and was wondering where our next episode was. And
Right here.
You
What's
know what?
up? Question answered.
question
Next one.
answered. Just a little bit later. But,
Yes,
it's I appreciate you giving us the shout out. And I think I covered everyone. Sounds right.
Awesome.
So there we go.
So you want to jump into these Starlighter games then?
I just wanted to also go into one little thing before we started into that.
My God,
One
go ahead.
little thing.
Do it. I dare you.
Another
Go.
we play, which by the way, this tournament's turned out to be kind of a hoot and holler. So a good one to. That's how I describe it. Apparently, it's got some interesting matches going on. It feels a little more trollish to me. And when I say that, I mean it's not trollish, but maybe it's because Speed Gaming International's in it. I don't know, but the lineups have been a lot more fun. It's been fun to watch the games. But there was a match between them, which, by the way, for those who don't know, because apparently BDLM wasn't even really sure, they are Kai P reincarnated to Rattlesnake International, reincarnated now to Speed Gaming International. So everyone hates their new name, but what are you going to do? It's their new name. We'll deal with it. And they played Alliance in their second match of their best of 3. They went, and I just wanted to ask an opinion on you. Well, of you.
I'm awesome, but
Oh, yeah.
that's my
Okay, how about
opinion.
also the fact that Eternal Envy, playing the Storm Spirit, obviously he loves the hero, playing in the safe lane, decides to go the Trank Boots into a Soul Ring. What are your thoughts? And this is not the first time that's happened. It's been starting to get built on him as this hero.
Trank Boots, Soul Ring in the safe lane. That's interesting. I mean, if you're in the safe lane, I guess, was he up against a solo?
He was against a Lone Druid solo.
Okay, well, there you go. That's your answer. I mean, I like that in that respect because, okay, I'm clearly not going to get harassed. I can put out some additional damage. I'm going to constantly be able to cast on him. And I think that's important, especially when you're going up against a Lone Druid, somebody who has to hit level 5, who can put up a pretty decent amount of harassment. Of course, with any lucky entangles, you get an extra couple free bear hits, and you can pretty much cripple anybody. So I think it's interesting to go that direction, especially if you're not going to go for a bottle. Like, I think you got to go one or the other, and depending upon who you have mid, and if you think that that's going to be particularly useful for you, you might want to go in another direction. I think the Soul Ring's an interesting one.
He also
I
got a
don't
bottle,
know.
by the way. He went
He
a
also got a
million.
bottle.
He went like all regen and then started building his Orchid, and then Bloodstone. So the casters were even like shaking their heads, like, "Why is he delaying everything so much with this build?"
I mean, yeah, see, that's weird if you're going to get the bottle too. I mean, it's nice basic stats all around, and again, like, if you get caught, you get that nice entangle proc on you. Then the extra armor coming from the Trank Boots is probably really nice. Also, just having the passive health regeneration to sort of help you through that. But that's weird. That's definitely weird. That's also why I love Eternal Envy, though, because I like weird things for the most part. And so I'm happy to see something new, because clearly I think 9 times out of 10 you're expecting to see that quick bottle. So
Yeah.
Um, that's neat. I'm glad you brought that up.
Also, just a couple more notes. Admiral Bulldog. You guys should probably watch this game because Admiral Bulldog in that game denies himself with his own bear, which is awesome. And I just have to say on that wasn't very nice of him.
Dear Lord, dear God.
Anyways, and then finally, God, that was just had to happen. Alley 2000. I just want to know have you watched a lot of speed gaming recently?
Not recently,
Okay,
unfortunately.
because he came from Dignitas and was originally the 1 role, now playing that 4 role on this new lineup. So he's played a ton of Visage. It's kind of been his staple hero through a lot of these games. If he's able to get it, they give it to him every time, and it's just been. And a lot of people are praising his familiar control, how well he can just micro, kind of like another Puppy / Aki in the making that no one really knew because he played that 1. Yet now he's kind of really taking on this 4 role. So I was going to ask like how you thought he was in this 4 compared to a 1 role that he was doing before.
I can't say that I've watched enough to comment.
But well,
Next time I'll be ready.
next time you'll be ready. But as my opinion was just I think he's really done a phenomenal job, and honestly, I give so much credit to people who can play a hero like Visage well, just for the fact that it's obviously a challenge and it's a lot of microing, obviously. But
And it's a hero nuance too, because
Yeah.
there's even the potential that if you're on Radiant side, you can fly your familiars to the Dire camp that's just above the top rune spawn, and you can pretty much situate your familiars there that they can't die, and they can kill the jungle camp there, which is just kind of cool. You get to go ahead and pick up yourself some extra farm. If you know that they have somebody doing their rounds in the jungle, you can try and get some of those creeps, try and put them into a slightly more awkward position. They waste the time of trying to run to that camp. So there's a lot of small stuff that you can do, especially with that hero, on top of just the micro. So yeah, like you said, I mean, that's I think always a great sign of a good player. If they can play Visage, then I would probably feel confident putting them on just about any hero.
Exactly, it's one of those heroes, right? If you can play him, you can pretty much play most heroes. And he also just in that game he did not he killed a courier with the familiars.
Oh,
Snuck
nice.
it. So I mean, like there's just like you said, little things you can do with them that like a player like me would like never do in a million years. You know, I'll just be like, I'll make him follow my hero and be like, do what he does. But you know, obviously he's going around that, like you said. And it was just amazing. But anyways, that's all I really want to say about that. Yes, we can finally get into Star Ladder or Star Series, huh? Whichever one you want to call it, it's the same thing.
Ladder
So,
series.
the
Take
ladder.
star out of it.
There's just no more star left. It's just a series of ladders,
Ladder
one after
series.
another. This is fucking Donkey Kong going ham right here.
Shoots and ladders. Alright, that's all the ladder references I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah,
two. Yeah.
these were actually really cool games. I liked them. There are a lot of nice sort of role juxtapositions, and I think that's really kind of what's most important to take away from this set, because we get to see Elder Titan picked up a bunch in this series, played in the mid role as well as in the tri-lane support. We get to see a Caryabadon. We get to see Doom pop up a couple times. We get to see Doom successful and Doom unsuccessful, and really get to look at how those two games differ and really what Doom was able to get out of the first game that he wasn't able to get out of the second game. And so they're all fun, they're all great, and of course, maybe now is not the greatest time to purchase a Starladder ticket, but of course you're welcome to do it, as you have access to all those games still, and they're all phenomenal. I guess as a general statement, I did actually watch the finals through Join Dota, which was weird. They had a lot of technical difficulties, which was a little annoying to try and get through. But I will say that I did enjoy Toby being scared of Phantom Lancer so much that they felt obligated to focus the camera on his fear and inability to live with the pick that never actually happened.
No, these teams are too good for that pick. Can I also just say another good reason that if you didn't buy the ticket, Emerald Bulldog plays Nature's Prophet. Can you
Yep.
can you just believe that for a second? Just take a step
I'm
back
like-
and try to think about that. That's just phenomenal.
that he does. Yeah, I mean that's
mean,
his other go-to, right? I mean, if it's not Lone Druid, it's Nature's Prophet. That's another hero
it's
that
one of two.
praised for playing does it so well.
There's a
Um,
reason. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of good things. And my main note was just rematch of TI3 much because it was such a similar hype. It was a LAN event. Now in this scenario, actually it was kind of similar. Navi was pretty much the home team of both the TI3 and this. Now this makes a lot more sense that he's the home team over here, as the location is much closer to the Ukraine or whatever than whatever that country over there, some country in the east. But yeah, I still Navi. It was pretty cool to hear in the background of the casting the crowd getting into it and just cheering him on in general.
on a personal note, that always just gives me chills because it reminds me of being at the international. That's always so much fun, and it's like one of those things that is like so great to actually get to be a part of. Like, and it's nice to have. You might have your defense or whatever for whatever your home team is for whatever other sports you follow, but that was definitely like a unique experience and great to even get that appreciation and get that to continue in other venues other than just the biggest tournament for the sport.
They are Ukraine. Why'd you give me
Okay.
a weird look? I thought I was wrong. Okay. Well, anyways, yes,
Game
I
one.
agree. It was, I lose my confidence immediately when you give me that look. So I have to go and check my sources like immediately, so I don't feel too stupid. But anyways, yeah, we can get into it. So first game, we probably won't try to spend too much time on each individual aspect of the game, as obviously there are. Well, it's a best of 5, and Alliance did start. It was weighted, so Alliance, because they came from the winners bracket, started with a 1-game advantage. So they only had to win 2 to pull out a victory. By the way, spoilers.
Yeah,
There's your announcer.
believe it or
We're
not.
going to go through all the games, so you're going to know the result by the end of it. Just if you don't
Unless
want
we
to.
didn't tell you how it was weighted, in which case you might have not known. But weighted towards Alliance.
It did.
Yeah, it goes to all 5 games, which is great too. Like, it was nice to get to see, yet again, these two teams take it as far as they can, going back and forth. And this game 1 was pretty awesome. Getting to see Alliance try a strategy they've run in the past, the carry Loda Abaddon, trying to get him off to a great start. And I think Alliance, they wind up picking Troll Warlord, Chen, Nature's Prophet, Abaddon, and Rubik. I mean, just a great lineup. Clearly there's a ton of push, and clearly that's, I think, what they wanted to do with that lineup. Get Abaddon a couple core items, and then just be able to start an unstoppable push. But Navi did a pretty good job of dealing with that.
Yeah, they definitely did. They went with their Elder Titan, Outward Devourer, Crystal Maiden, Timbersaw, and Anti-Mage. And if you just looked at the team, Elder Titan, by the way, being a support in this game, Kurokai going ham salad there. But, it's just it's so interesting to see him played in these different positions. Like we've talked about a lot the last 2 episodes, how versatile he is. He did an amazing job roaming around the map and setting up a lot of kills. The damage alone from the Ancestral Spirit is just way more than people expect. And when you put that natural order in with it, of course, you're hitting harder, your teammates are hitting harder. It's just a lot for people to overcome. And what really started this game out on the right foot for Na'Vi, OD against that troll mid, they were just trading blows, and an Invis Crystal Maiden creeping in there and get that Frostbite gives Dendi that early kill and that huge. Once you get that first blood within that first few minutes, I mean, you get the levels, you get the gold, you're off to a fantastic start, and it's really hard to come back from that.
Yeah, unless you're running a Doom tri-lane aggressively. It's really... But we'll get into that later. That's something that they didn't really bring up, none of the casters, was just like how crucial runes actually were to this game. Or this series, rather. You get the first blood here. There's game 4, or I guess depends how you count it. I'm gonna call the free win to Alliance the weighted game 1. Game 4, when Alliance was actually able to pick up a victory, multiple Invis runes used to pick up kills, and it seemed like wherever there was something crazy going on, an Invis rune had something to do with it, and actually really helped give the teams the advantages they needed to pick up their wins.
Oh yeah, and I believe 2 of the games, puppy on that Crystal, or whoever's playing Crystal Bane got the invis rune right off the bat, and it actually led to a kill in both games. So just the fact that how crucial and deadly, like you're saying, these runes can really be, can definitely play a nice factor. And they are pretty much overlooked a lot by casters, but it's, at the end of the day, it's more about the action for them than it is about the little things.
Yeah.
But
I have to say, one of the things I overlooked 100% was like how effective the Elder Titan build with Natural Order and the Ancestral Spirit was in the support role. Like, when you and I first discussed Elder Titan, it was like, yeah, you could, probably try and get some points of that, but, your big thing is going to be the stomp. It's going to be the ultimate, being able to line those up, and that's really what's going to, probably seal the deal for the team in the team fights, etc. But here we go. We get to see it in Game 1. We get to see it further on in the competition. Just going for the Ancestral Spirit and the Natural Order, and just how deadly that was. I mean, there are so many team fights I would go back and watch and be like, wait, where did all that damage come from? The Spirit, okay, the Spirit's there, and then just, oh, people are just hitting for half of the enemy hero's health. Like, what's going on? Like, seeing Doom land some hits on people with Ancestral Spirit nearby, I cringed. So much damage can be brought just by that. You really don't even need the stomp. The stomp, the ultimate, they feel like icing on the cake.
yeah, there was a few patches ago, his natural ward actually, it got buffed, the amount of physical damage or the armor reduction or whatever it is, it got buffed by about 20% the last rank. So it was even there. People are just hitting harder. That might get tuned down, especially after all these tournaments. They're seeing how much he's getting used. It's pretty much every single game now, and with that comes tweaking. Now, obviously, he's not going to need to be hit with a Nerf bat, because he's not. I don't think he's at that stage. It's just more like, oh, he's just entering the scene. Teams are still kind of adjusting, but there's probably some tweaking that'll happen down the road. But in the meantime, while we don't have the tweaking, we might as well talk about how he is in the present. Doing well, like you said, giving some nice bonuses all around the map. And it wasn't even as much about the ultimate, especially in this game. Other games, perhaps it helped a lot more than others, but in this one, it wasn't really at all about the ultimate. It was really so much to do with just the ancestral spirit damage burst, plus the order, like we keep saying. I also liked how CM not countered, but Frostbite versus Chen creeps is great. It's a great way to really secure kills for your team on them. Obviously, it lasts up to 8 seconds on neutral creeps. It's something 6 or 8 seconds, a lot higher than the normal duration. And it's doing its damage the whole time as well, which actually allows her to farm neutral camps to a degree on her own that we've kind of briefly touched on before, but she wasn't doing that as much. But I kind of liked how that actually worked out in their favor, but it just confused me using this Abaddon in this lineup. I kind of got it. They're going early game, and he can do decent damage, and he'll be good for early game, but they just weren't able to capitalize with it. He essentially played Abaddon like Navi was playing Anti-Mage. They just farmed him, and that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot about just trying to, like I was saying earlier, just get him off the ground and get a couple core items up, and then try and see if you can get that massive push going. But, Navi weren't having it. They were clearly able to stop it. And the thing that I really liked about this, too, is that you had Havost playing Anti-Mage, gets his Battle Fury together. Navi has a good advantage at this point. Doesn't decide to press it, though. Builds into the Vlads and just really tries to get them into a position where they can just sort of finish the crushing, deal the crushing blow, finish the game out. And they're able to do it. I mean, the Vlads is a fantastic item. I love it in this situation, especially because you have an Elder Titan on the field. I think that's, just a fantastic thing to add to it. Especially also because you look at the other team and there are a lot of little hits. There's nobody that's really going to be doing big chunks of physical DPS other than the Troll Warlord. Abaddon's going to be attacking fast, but for a lot of damage, not really. It's one of those effects that's kind of, I think, too often overlooked, is you're giving everybody on your team bonus armor. And I think this is a really great situation where you go, that's fantastic. I'll take it. Give me the armor.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And another thing I want to point out that Funnick actually did really well that I like to see. Haven't seen this really since Demon playing Kodal offlane. But he went in that offlane and he ate through a tree and kind of burrowed himself behind the tree line, right kind of near the enemy tower, so that right where the creep waves collide, he could safely sit there, gain XP for free, and didn't have to worry about it. And honestly, yeah, they were a little suspicious to it, and it only lasted for so long, but he got a leveler very safely. And by that point, he could have his chain, he could have his whirling blade, he got all of his key core elements. Actually, he started level 1 with reactive armor right away. He didn't even get the other two. He didn't wait. He just got the armor right away. Because he said, you know what, if I get ganked, I'm going to need the armor and the health regen to get out of here alive.
And
yeah.
I think that's another great example of where you can see that sort of realization that I'm not going to take big chunks of like damage coming out of this team. You're going to have Rubik. You're, I guess, going to have the Mist Coil. If Prophet drops his ultimate eventually, you have that. But if he gets ganked early on, it's going to mostly be the LOA attacks he has to deal with. He's going to have the creeps do their burst coming from Chen, and then that's it. Mm-hmm. They're just going to be auto-attacking him. Really, if he survives that first barrage, he's just going to get more and more stacks to the reactive armor and help him deal with the attack. So, kind of weird, but at the same time, I think it was appropriate in this situation.
Yeah, Abaddon's early damage depends a lot on someone on his team taking damage. Obviously, with the Apodic Shield, so the coil is about all you can do on demand burst damage. So, yeah, and then he was pretty safe, to be honest. And when he hit level 2, get that Timber Chain, it was so easy for him to get out at that point. But yeah, once OD got that mech and trank boots, he was just too tanky. And this is kind of my final note, but I basically said the game just felt like a 4v4. It was essentially a farm fest of the Anti-Mage and the Abaddon. They didn't really do a lot for their team at all, but neither really needed... Well, I'll take that back. Abaddon really, I felt like, should have participated a lot more in fights. He kind of waited until he got like phase boots and drums and this and that. And like you said, he wanted the cores, but at the same time, he took so long to get these things that his team was already way under the gun. And when they tried to go for a gank on mid on Dendi, and they just wiped and didn't lose any, and the Navi lost no one. And this was all without Havorst. He was just farming top lane, safe and sound. So at that point, you knew the game was over, and sure enough, it was a quick win.
Yeah, I mean, the other things that I wanted to point out that I thought were really interesting was seeing OD be able to help set up that Elder Titan ultimate. I mean, I think we've seen Naga use the Elder Titan and how effective that can be, but here you just sort of get the Astral Imprisonment. You have the nice little Ancestral Spirit sitting there doing his little dance, and we saw the one instance where OD drops his ultimate as soon as the person comes out and they get annihilated. Oh my god. And then you also just had the Banish help set up the Fissure. I mean, it was amazing to see how well those two heroes work together, and it's something I hadn't really considered before.
That timing was like flawless, and that might help with the land scenario or something, but it was like literally one of his fissures was like a millisecond after he came out of that banish. I was like, wow, Kurokai, you have played this hero quite a bit apparently, because you know exactly what to do with him. It was very impressive, needless to say. And like you said, oh my gosh, the Spirit plus the Ward plus the OD ult was just devastating. It was brutal early game. He doesn't even need the int. He had the mech and trank boots, and he just had the level advantage over all these other people that it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I wanted to point out that I thought was really interesting about this game, especially in the early game, was you look how Puppey played the Crystal Maiden. He applied that early gank into the middle lane. They also go to put a gank up onto Admiral Bulldog where he sneaks behind the tower. And so they're playing this tri-lane against Nature's Prophet. Puppey really almost sort of floats between the two, and when Anti-Mage as well as Elder Titan were able to get the creep wave up on the tower, Puppey was just able to cut in behind it, get a kill. Unfortunately, Admiral Bulldog had the presence of mind to TP back up there and snag a last hit in on the Anti-Mage, but it was really great to see how Puppey was playing this hero that I feel like I myself have sort of damned for having such a low movement speed and being awkward to move between lanes. He does it really well, and all of those movements between the lanes led to kills and helps lead to an advantage.
Exactly. He played that hero the ideal way. And let's just say CN throughout all these games has proven time and time again how amazing her ult is. I just have to say.
3 of the 4 games, too. Also to point out.
Right, the amount of picks. Yeah, she came through a lot.
I think that's a lot to do with, I mean, you look at all these other picks, too. You look at Elder Titan, who's somebody that can tend to go out of mana pretty easily. OD, I guess, is okay with it. Whatever, not a big deal. Timbersaw, of course, is gonna like having it. Um, Anti-Mage, not necessarily a big deal, but as we look at the lineups for the other games where Crystal Maiden's picked up, it's not only the Frostbite, which Puppy uses great. It's not only the First Blood potential, which he helps get on several occasions. It's also the fact that this aura actually functions really well within the team as well. And like you were about to say, the ultimate actually able to do a ton of damage as well, on top of the Elder Titan Spirit too. So it's just crazy the amount of damage that
Well,
Crystal Maiden was actually able to help
this is
contribute.
time and time again. It comes down to making so much sense why teams pick Elder Titan like every game, pretty much. It's just he synergizes with everything. There's nothing that he is not helpful with, honestly. So, yeah, it's pretty brutal, pretty good, and like I said, I do not expect him to be going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, also an interesting thing to note before we get into this game, how Alliance banned Enchantress every single game.
Weird.
Think they didn't like certain players having that hero?
I want to say Puppy was undefeated. Maybe he dropped one game as Enchantress throughout Starladder. It was something like
Wow.
13-1 or something. It was like it was absurd, the record he had with the Enchantress. So yep, I'm not surprised. And then of course when you have the Chen, that makes sense. But no, you look at the other fans in the games, like you said, they just did not want to see him on it. Also, I mean, Navi bans out Chen a lot when they play against Alliance because Aki's so good at Chen. So yeah, that is nice to pick up. But moving into the second game, how can you not be happy with this one? There's a teddy bear. There's just
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a carry.
there's a snuggly little teddy bear who you just want to snuggle him.
And can you guess who he was paired with?
Wisp. Wisp. Is it the Wisp?
Actually, his name's Io, technically.
Yeah, yeah. All right. But Navi in this game, they decided to go Bat Rider, Io, Bounty Hunter, Doom, and Ursa, and I loved it. I like seeing the Doom. This is obviously a game that Navi wins, and Doom gets to show himself for being a pretty useful hero and a neat pick. I love to see Funix Bounty Hunter too. I think he's a great Bounty Hunter game, and I know he has a great win rate on the Bounty Hunter with Navi. So, I mean, this overall, despite the fact that maybe the Doom Ursa Io is kind of, well, I guess the Io isn't really a weird pick, but the Ursa and the Doom aren't heroes we see all that often. They were really great in this game, and I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it really did work out terrific for them. There was so many things to go about. Obviously, the other team, I'm not sure you said their lineup. Alliance ended up going Elder Titan, the Troll Warlord, Clockwork, Shake and Bake. I'm sorry, Earthshaker for those who are not as familiar, and the Visage. And right away, the Cash has pointed out that's a 4 melee lineup, and it definitely, you could feel that 4. I mean, Troll Warlord, yeah, back and forth, range and melee. But it's just so interesting how Alliance takes heroes and plays them in different roles that other teams just like the Troll Warlord we see middle, I'd say the most commonly, but yet Loda runs them as the carry in the short lane in this game, and Elder Titan going in that middle. Now that's not uncommon. Elder Titan played middle happens very frequently, but the Earthshaker threw me for a big curve. First of all, wasn't sure what they were thinking when they wanted to pick that up, because that was one of their last picks. Their two supports were their last 2 picks, so they already knew pretty much what they were getting into. Do you have any idea why they really wanted that?
Well, I mean, they tried doing the block a lot, which I think was a big part of it, just trying to starve out the enemy team, but the enemy team has a Bounty Hunter and a Doom. So, they certainly always have that sort of comeback potential with those heroes, so, I don't know, I have weird feelings towards Shaker because I get him and he'll show why he's a good hero, but for the most part, I feel like the majority of the time I see Shaker, it's for this gimmicky, we're gonna divert the creeps into the Ancients, or, something like that to block the creeps off. It's not really because he does anything, or maybe it's just that the Fissure is such a unique spell, and that spell fits that niche too well, and that's the only thing that he really gets picked for. He's neat, don't get me wrong, but I almost don't like seeing him because I'm just like, oh, this is no, I'm not really that interested in seeing what he's gonna do. And like I said, you're playing that style of game, trying to starve out Ursa, who can go into the jungle if he really wants to, Doom, who spends his time in the jungle. They had other places to get the farm, and then of course once Io hit 6, they could just farm heroes. So
with Bounty Hunter track on
yeah,
top of that. And I actually did really appreciate the casting coming out from Toby and
Bruno.
Statsman Bruno. This was I'm not like saying over the top amazing, but I think they actually had some good synergy and they brought up some good points along the way, which actually were really interesting. For example, when they were starting out the picks and bans, and you saw the IO picked, and they knew he was going to be the carry. Bruno said right away, well, you want Io to get levels as a support. You don't really want to run him in a tri-lane necessarily because he's going to not get the levels. The relocate's going to take forever to get. He's not going to be as effective. So they were like, but look at the bans. Chen, Enchantress, Enigma, all banned out. Who are they going to run this jungle? And sure enough, that's when the Doom gets picked up. And it threw both of them for a surprise. They're like, oh yeah, there's that hero. Like, completely forgot about that guy. And it was just like the perfect fit for this team. It really was. And so, I mean, it threw me for a curve too, frankly. I wasn't even seeing it coming. So, and yet it filled the role well. The Doom Ultimate, oh my god, is it devastating to certain heroes. Put that on Elder Titan, put it on Clockwork. I mean, these heroes are just pretty much worthless for the whole fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of great targets to pick up. I mean, it really almost doesn't matter because I felt like this team had so much initiation, it had so much burst potential. It really is not surprising that they were able to pick up a lot of kills, and help feed that track mentality, having that being such a big part of the fights. And Ursa did wind up getting behind to start with because of the Earthshaker blocks and whatnot, but he's able to come back, and it really wasn't much of a big deal at all in the grand scheme of things. The Doom, I think, in this situation was just awesome. I really like seeing this hero, and it's nice to get to see him twice in the finals for such a big LAN tournament too, because I mean, in general I feel like he gets overlooked so much. The Scorched Earth is fantastic. Obviously, the movement speed, the health regeneration. I believe in this game, you're welcome to correct me, I think he prioritizes Scorched Earth over Devour, leaves Devour at 2 points. So doesn't too heavily prioritize that farming aspect, but it's just about sort of being an immovable object and able to run around in these fights, put up the extra damage, get the Doom off, and still get a good amount of farm. Like you said, he was not necessarily in the lane with Io, so Io was able to pick up his own experience. And I think that's a really big contrast to when you look at when Na'Vi decided to run an aggressive tri-lane with it in Game 4. They're just not able to get the levels up, and you see all these situations like, oh man, if only they had Doom here, if only they had it, that'd be great. But in this situation, in this game, I thought it was a really nice pickup. And of course, whoever gets that, they're not going to be able to sort of try and stun Ursa away. They're not going to be able to, if you put it on the Clockwork, he's not going to be able to cogs Ursa away. There's some pretty decent ways to try and keep Ursa off people in this lineup, but they weren't really able to take advantage of much of any of them.
Yeah, they had some ideas, but they did not pan out at all. Especially the Fissure. I mean, once you get a 4-staff or 2 up on a team, Fissure is obsolete at that point. It's not going to help
4-staff
you.
on your Ursa, too.
I was getting there. But I was actually about to go into item builds. Well, first I wanted to say, before I get into item builds, that how much Bounty Hunter changes games. There was this huge team fight. They picked off Elder Titan in middle, and everything was going definitely the way of Alliance early game. S4 was just racking up kills, doing so much damage. He even went up different lanes, popped that little spirit, and just scooped him up, as you would say, your little phrase there. But just going in like a brutal rampage, and doing a great job. But he got picked off by himself, and then they had a team fight without Elder Titan, and got wiped, and didn't lose anything for it. And I believe the gold graph changed roughly about 15,000 gold in 5 minutes from a couple team fights. Of course that's not all Bounty Hunter, but it's a huge part of Bounty Hunter. The fact that he was alive, keeping tracks on all those kills, or most of them, and the fact that they just weren't losing anyone in the fights, just really swung the game, and they just snowballed. Ursa he loves snowballs. I think in the wintertime he goes and makes snowmen or something.
Does he have a favorite flavor?
I think it's egg custard, actually.
Hmm.
That's
Strong
what I've
choice.
heard. I don't know why that's anyone's favorite. That sounds disgusting. Never tried it, but it sounds disgusting.
And that's really the thought. You shouldn't like prove one way or another. You should just believe that irrationally
Always
and
judge a
move
book
forward.
by its cover is what I've heard.
And don't
So
read it because then
never. That's where
probably not worth
dangerous
it.
things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really spun out of control, and now I can get into kind of the whole item thing here. The fact that Troll Warlord with this absolute free farm, of course, because he's against a bounty hunter, so no issues there. Bounty hunter's like running around. Um, he goes first time Vlad, which was interesting. So I was trying to figure that out. Now, obviously, 4 melee team. Okay, life steal is going to kind of happen. Get the damage boost for you and Elder Titan. Like I kind of get that too. I love the Troll Alt plus Elder Titan boosted damage. That's a lot of crazy burst physical coming out. But I wasn't in love with the Vlads. It felt like I like the item. I don't like it first. I'll put it that way. And then he
Mhm.
also went right into Shadowblade next. Shadowblade against a team like Na'Vi, who's going to buy detection, and probably very quickly, may I add. Not afraid to go that. Whereas Ursa going, like you said, Force Staff, and then after the, of course, getting on control, going Black King Bar, and then Heart eventually, and he had the Vlads, of course. I mean, the insane amount of damage coming out from him, it just seemed to really trump the build of Troll Warlord here.
Yeah, and I think this kind of again lends to sort of how both of these teams are almost trying to play this game where they're sort of looking for that point where they get enough of an advantage that they can just sort of seal the game off. And they just want to be able to finish it quickly. Because, I think the Shadow Blade, if Troll Warlord's able to get himself out of that lane and pick up some kills, they're able to sort of put him and Elder Titan together. You look at what their lineup is, and it's so much area control. It's kind of ridiculous. You have a Conal Slow, you have the Stomp, you have the Cogs, you have the Fissure, you have the 2 drop downs from the Visage Birds, and then the Slow from Visage. Really, if you just put them all in a little box and you see what happens, they've got a pretty good chance. But, again, Navi had this lineup that was really all about being able to take people out quickly between Bounty Hunter and Ursa. They were able to initiate. They were able to move people around the map really quickly. And, I think that just sort of played to their advantage. And, if Troll Warlord was able to get out of that lane and build them that advantage, awesome. But, again, you have Navi who picks up the Bounty Hunters. They're looking to get the track goal. They're looking to get that extra bonus. They're milking more out of the jungle with the Doom. So, it's sort of interesting how both these teams sort of have that same mentality trying to play through these games, and just how that's able to play out. But I really did love seeing the Ursa specifically. I not like Ursa Io. This is the first time we've seen it.
No.
But man, it was just great to see him being able to move around through these team fights. He did have some troubles here and there, but picks up the Force Staff himself to make sure that, okay, I might be able to ask my teammates for help here and there to move me around, but I need to buy one on me. I need to make that really a pretty decent gold investment to make sure that I can move in and out of cogs, so I can move over fissures and that thing.
Oh yeah, and once he got that BKB, I mean, when he got to use it, his 9-second one, he got an ultra kill. I mean, it was brutal. You look at this alliance lineup, and it's essentially it's pretty much all magic damage except for the troll. I mean, the Elder Titan, yeah, he wails on you a little bit, but I mean, their crowd control is so heavily dependent on doing their magic. So the fact that he just could pop that with the Force Staffs, like you said, he could keep up with everyone and just wail on them, really led to the full scale damage coming out from this hero. That obviously is always Ursa's weakness, is mobility, and if you solve that problem, you got no problems. And Troll Warlord, I almost the first reaction, I'm like, why did he go Shadowblade over BKB? But then you look back at Navi, they got Bat Rider and Doom. It's like, okay, I could try to pop it, but either I'll get bat ulted or you'll doom me before I even get to use it, and I'm screwed either way. Like, their lineup is so annoying and amazing for that reason alone.
And then you have so much of the damage that Ursa can pump out that's not going to be magic anyway. So, yeah, it really, for how almost unorthodox and wonky it seems, like, it's a really nice draft from Navi. They do a great job. I mean, I liked what Alliance wanted to do, and I think they really were looking to try and get 3 and 4 man engagements that they could try and use their team fight control to their advantage, but unfortunately it didn't work out for them.
So Navi picks up a win, 2 wins in a row here, putting them at 2-1 at this point. They only need one more to win, and we get into game 3/4, whichever you want to call it, the next game of the series. And in this one, like you said earlier, you alluded to, Alliance does pick up the win, which lets us get to that final game. But this is where that aggressive Doom trialing comes out. So the picks, Navi goes Io, Troll Warlord, Crystal Maiden, Doom, and Clinks as their final pick. Alliance goes the Elder Titan again with Lifestealer, Chen, Nature's Prophet, and the Windrunner.
Yeah, I think what was sort of also weird about this, and sort of comparing it to the other Doom game, is you have Devour being prioritized. He's about trying to pick up the early gold there, not necessarily using it to get the creep abilities early on. Really just trying to farm up and get himself into a good position to carry the game. I'm curious to see how it would have gone. I mean, Funnick had a really hard time playing that Clinks. He did against Prophet, and then of course when Elder Titan came up there, it made it really rough for him. Clinks had to run all the way back to base and heal up and then come back. So, it wasn't the best game of his life, unfortunately. But here's where I think I would have liked to see Doom play like LOA wanted to play in the first game, how Abaddon, if you're sort of taking the same mentality of let's take our safe lane farmer, let's get him to a comfortable position where he can maybe pick up our mech or drums of Vlad's, and then we can try and run around the map with that and just have all this up in front of our hard carries of the Troll Warlord, of Phonics Clinks. Unfortunately, I want to say that every possible thing that could have gone wrong in this game for Na'Vi happened. I mean, they lost their courier with the Vlads on it, which could have been a huge boost to Doom, who really just had a hard time for most of that game. Like I was saying at the beginning of the cast, he got to level 6 pretty slow, unfortunately. Despite the fact that they did pick up the first blood on Windrunner, they got off to a great start, but unfortunately they weren't really able to capitalize on it in that lane, and you even got to see where Havos tries to take Doom towards the tier 2 tower looking for another kill, winds up dying there, feeds it to Naix, and really just they're not able to sort of put that, at least the vision that I kind of have for that lineup, into play, and they just fall behind too far.
Yeah, they run a naked tri-lane here, and the reason I call it that is essentially no armor. The Doom, the Crystal Maiden, and the Io, all very low armor heroes, and when you're against this Lifestealer and a Windrunner, apparently one Shackle Shot and Power Shot plus Lifestealer is enough to kill any support, or at least in that tri-lane, because they were able to 3v2 essentially get kills against them, and there was really not much that could be done against it. Just for the fact, Doom, this is where he's not as good in the lane, I feel like. Unless you really eat some interesting creeps with some good abilities, he doesn't bring nearly as much to a table. Now, if you replace Doom with a Chaos Knight in that lineup, for example, there would have been some kills. There's no question there. There would have been some kills. But because Doom is more just like, I'm just going to kind of wail on you a little bit and hope this is enough, it just, IO Crystal Maiden was great, but the third component just seemed to be lackluster, in my opinion. And I got to give a lot of credit to the Windrunner. God, he only probably missed like 2 shackles that whole game. It was, some of them, Ice Frog, please fix, because the angles were a bit absurd.
Awesome.
To say, awesome is what I meant to say.
Bit awesome.
Pretty awesome, but it just, I had so much faith, too, in this Na'Vi lab. I loved the Clinks and Doom versus Chen. I'm like, how genius is that? You get the Clinks ult against the creeps, which is even better because they're empowered creeps, so he gets more of a bonus. We've even talked about that briefly before. Doom obviously can devour them, and also, if he goes Hand of Midas, he could do that too. I mean, there were so many ways to get rid of Chen creeps that he might be worthless mid to late game, but they never really got to take advantage of those pluses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually just looking at it now, and I think it's sort of interesting how he sort of talked about Elder Titan earlier, and how we don't even need his stomp necessarily, the ults, these sort of things that almost seem like the biggest parts of Elder Titan are like the icing on the cake, because really, you do your little bit of damage with the, and I say a little bit somewhat sarcastically, with the Spirit and Natural Order to sort of buff everybody else up. You don't necessarily have to do a whole lot else, and it's interesting that Elder Titan and Doom wind up on opposite sides of the board in both these games because Doom almost I think feels similar where he doesn't have the big nuke necessarily that you're going to get out of the Elder Titan, but he really needs a lot of help to try and um, make himself useful on the early levels. I mean, I think if you're able to sort of get stuns and whatnot up around him, then just the fact that he's in the fight a long time with the Scorched Earth, getting the hits off, that's enough that you could say, yeah, that was actually a really useful hero to have. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get a lot of tether stuns between the Doom and the Io, despite the fact that Doom's movement speed should have been through the roof. So you have this situation where this hero is sort of needs the levels and can't get them too, and that it just sort of didn't pan out.
And you're against a lifestealer who has rage, so like the best safe lane defensive ability you can have for a carry, besides maybe blink. So I mean, it's pretty legit there, and that obviously helped tremendously against Io and Crystal Main. But yeah, there was a couple interesting things. There was a really interesting statistic about snowballing for Elder Titan. They gave a statistic out there. For 11 out of 13 games with Elder Titan getting drums before 15 minutes, they win. And he got his drums in 11 minutes. So he beat that by 4, and that's already roughly 80% or so plus win rate. So you talk about snowballing with Titan. He was literally living it up in that middle lane. It was out of control, and it definitely showed. And he really took it to him in middle, and he was able, like you said, to even help the other lanes. That Ancestral Spirit can go for a while, before he gets recalled, and he can help a lot. He doesn't have to be there. That's the other great thing about that hero. He can just kind of walk down the river a little bit, pop his spirit, and just help the lane out.
Yeah. I mean, the other things I think were sort of unfortunate about this game, too. We didn't get to see a lot of great relocates from the Wisps. Basically, it felt like Navi got bullied into playing passively, and then Alliance did great of just as soon as they saw that, they were smoking, they were taking advantage of the invis runes that were showing up, and just going into the dire jungle and picking off people. I want to say the first relocate in the game was at the 20-minute mark, and it was to pull CM into a fight.
Huh. That's one of my notes.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, it sounds kind of silly because that's not like the classic setup you might think of, but... Yeah. Oh man, all of a sudden you have 2 great crowd control moves that you're able to bring in and help set something up. So you didn't really get to see the relocate. Not that you need it to have Io be a good hero, but that certainly didn't help. And yeah, I mean, for me this game felt just like they couldn't get anything to click for them. And, Rune's too strong.
Well, you did say it from the start, and it has been a pattern throughout this game. Or all the games. But yeah, my note there was that IO plus CM ult is amazing because he just gets teleported in, drops the ult right on top of the team. It was one of the only good team fights that Navi had right there. Later in the game, that ultimate was barely a scratch on them, but it was pretty funny to watch. The other kind of interesting thing, Nature's Prophet with that Shadow Blade being used as a bomb with Lifestealer for some ganks. He teleported in, Shadow Blade, and then, surprise, dead. Just in a matter of seconds with those 2 doing damage. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and they were even able to bait Funnick in to going in on Nature's Prophet. And he was actually able to pick up a kill from it. But, still, I think just showing how great Alliance were playing, really, in this game especially, and just how they were able to take advantage of the fact that Funnick is playing a hero that he sort of built his name on. So it kind of interesting that they were really able to sort of take his greatest namesake and just punish him for it.
So, like we said, Alliance pulling out a win there, tying it all up for 2-2, getting it to the nitty-gritty here in the last game. And this is where it all comes down to. Now, another interesting thing to note, Na'Vi, all the games, picked their hard carry last. So they left Havor's pick to the very end there. And they also decided to go with their middle pick in one of their first 2 picks. So they really kind of had a similar strategy throughout, where they know what was really important. And I guess Poppy just not either. I don't know if it's either he didn't value the hard carry position as much, or that he valued it so much that he wanted a reactive pick. Do you have any idea?
I think really at this level especially, it doesn't really matter what you get. I mean, I think they could pretty much make whatever work. If you have Lifestealer out of the mix, you even see that in this fifth game, Alliance ban out the Alchemist.
Hmm.
Like, they're really a lot of those other carries are just all pretty much equally awesome. I mean, we even got to see Havos play that anti-mage really well in the first game. I mean, he picks up Spectre in this game. They really aren't limited by the carries available to them, and
Right.
they could even, if they wanted to, go for the Phantom Lancer, not even like a Cancer Lancer, but just a regular Phantom Lancer. That would still be great. I feel like there aren't, once you take out Nyx, once you take out Lifestealer and Alchemist, everything else almost feels like it evens out. And you have just a ton of great options for whatever situation you want.
Yeah, exactly. So, as you've kind of alluded to already, the picks, Navi went the Bat Rider again with Elder Titan once again, Crystal Maiden, Timbersaw, and then that Spectre, and then Alliance going to Io, Nature's Prophet, Kodal, Juggernaut, and the Storm Spirit on the S4. So, you just, when you say his name, I feel like you just have to use the accent. It's just too
Storm
fun.
Spirit alive.
You're
Yeah.
probably a little better than me, but that's fine. At the voice, that's it. Timbersall, not at life. I'm just kidding, sort of. Timbersall going against that Nature's Prophet one-on-one. Just have to say right off the bat how reactive armor already makes him win the lane. I mean, the Treants can't harass him. They essentially give him more effective health by attacking him than by not attacking him. So he already was kind of dominating the lane against Nature's Prophet. Sprout completely worthless, obviously. And it just was. And this is Funnick too, who plays an outstanding Timbersaw. So give him free farm and free roam to do whatever he wants, and he's going to be a crucial member of this game.
The other thing that I liked about just the lineups from this game is, if you go to the fourth pick for Navi, you know that Puppy's playing Crystal Maiden, and that's really it. You don't know.
That's
Other
true.
than that, you have no clue who's playing what anywhere at this point. And not that I think Alliance would be thrown off by the picks all that much, but it's just nice to see that they kind of get this draft that's so open-ended, and they really had a lot of different potential options for laning throughout this draft. If they felt like they came up against something weird, they would be able to switch it up pretty well and deal with it. If they wanted to, they could have jungled the Bat Rider. They could have sent him into the side lane solo. They really could have done a lot here. And Alliance, I'm actually really glad to see their lineup. I liked it a lot. They had so much global presence, and I was really scared for Navi just because they had so much jump, just being able to get on top of people, get Storm Spirit in there, TP in with Nature's Prophet, the IO relocate, even though you don't have the quote unquote great relocate target, and Jugs is sort of weird with the IO since you can't tether him when he's spinning. But they just had such a scary lineup that I honestly thought that they had probably a really strong shot at this, even though Navi did pick up some of the more Imba heroes.
They did, and this kind of also not completely obviously, but is sort of reminiscent of that final game in the International 3, where the Alliance goes this kind of split pushy team, if you will, or a team that can do it. Split push pretty well, with the IO plus Juggernaut with that healing ward, and then of course Nature's Prophet all day, getting that holla, getting that dollar, and Storm Spirit just being a nuisance as Puck was in that game. So it kind of had some similarities to it, obviously, and like you said, and we didn't mention before, but Kodal in itself also has a global presence, of course, with the recall. So they had all day teleporting and getting people going around. But it just it definitely did not go the same way. There were no massive puck ultis to change the game in this one, but I think Na'Vi just played it very methodically, and they played it the way they needed to. They knew Juggernaut was going to be a strong hero early, as of course he was. He went the drums and he went for a point booster even early to go right for that Oghanims. He just wanted to get as much team fight damage as possible, as quickly as possible. And honestly, things were looking pretty good for them all around. There was definitely, I know, one point where a gank on bottom went very wrong for them. They went all out on Spectre, which of course, as we know, going all out on Spectre first you feel like you have to, but that means your team is taking a lot of damage to kill him. So already off the bat, they're taking some heavy damage. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Crystal Main, Bat Rider, and Elder Titan. They drop all their ultimates, Firefly, you name it. Elder Titan's Fissure picks up 3 kills right there with all their AoE scooped up. And then Storm Spirit has to buy back. Juggernaut gets picked off later. So it was a 1-for-4 trade just for the Spectre. And ever since then, it really started getting out of control for Na'Vi.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there were a lot of buybacks by Alliance in this game. There were a lot of like
Nature's
huge
Prophet,
team
too.
swings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean the Spectre wasn't even putting a lot of the points into Dispersion, which was also I think so crazy. I mean, and sort of another weird hero combination, getting to see Desolate just that extra bonus damage to come out, and if you're able to get the Ancestral Spirit out on target, I mean they're just going to be taking so much damage. It's crazy. I mean, it's nice to see the Spectre get played and sort of get to see it played aggressively. Mm-hmm. So it's not just this sit back and tank up Radiance and Heart.
Yeah.
Hope Dispersion kills everything. Really sort of a more aggressive posture. It's something I've seen Havos play even in pub games, and it's a ton of fun to watch. But to go back to the point booster being picked up on the Juggernaut, to go for the Aghanim Scepter, I thought it was awesome to see immediately Ghost Scepters being picked up.
Oh, yeah.
Just to try and counter that out. And it does in a couple situations. In one situation, it kind of backfires where it was, 2 or 3 people getting ulted, and 2 of them pop the Ghost Scepters. Then just like, oh god, don't kill the last one. But they were able to make it work. And the other thing I thought was really interesting about this game was just the way that the aggressive tri-lane from Alliance goes. And they decide to not ward the creep camp, which I know is something that we've sort of, in playing our own games, have talked about and had discussions about. Mm-hmm. They let Na'Vi pull the creeps, because not only are they able to sort of farm the creeps that get pulled off to the side, getting themselves some extra gold, some extra experience in the mix, but they're able to try and bait Na'Vi into situations where they would have to fight when they don't necessarily want to, sort of in a more easy space than under the tower or just in front of the tower. So maybe even able to catch off some of these supports who are trying to pull while Havos is trying to get farm in the lane.
Yeah, exactly. There were some probably mistakes made on both sides, but definitely, like you said, that definitely I think was one of them. But Na'Vi just I feel like they just had a lot of confidence, and they really knew how to utilize their abilities together. Like, just for example, Alliance around 24 minutes tried to take Roshan, and Na'Vi, right, they had the timing right. They knew pretty much when to go in on it, and Spectre just pops his ulti. They get the vision on the pit, and here comes Dendi, blinks in. They steal the kill on Roshan, and he gets the Aegis. And then they actually take a 3-0 fight right there. So, I mean, knowing to use his abilities in succession like that, and just the timing was just flawless, like I said. They were really playing a phenomenal game. And, you give Alliance credit, but Na'Vi was just playing lights out.
Yeah, and, it's almost like I feel like there aren't anywhere near as many, Dendi OP, Nerf Dendi plays that we maybe used to see. Maybe just because everybody else is getting better. But that one little sweep through the Roshan pit was just, I think, a great show of just how good Dendi is. Because it's not only that he kills Roshan, he takes the Aegis, he then pushes himself over, lays fire across the steps, and then puts himself right on top of some of the squishies sitting in the back, trying to support. He gets taken down, pops up the Aegis, and is in a prime position to try and pick up additional kills in Alliance and cut them off from their retreat. I mean, just that whole arc there was so phenomenal. It was great to see.
No, exactly. Now let's get into some items. Now, you mentioned the Ghost Scepters. It was on 3 heroes. Crystal Maiden, Timber, and Bat all had one at the end of the game. And they actually got them kind of quickly, the way the game was kind of snowballing for them. Which was very fortunate. That's kind of an issue Juggernaut can run into very often, is that Ghost Scepter, of course. When he pops that ulti, he's very dependent on it hitting, especially when you go Aghanims. When you go Aghanims, it's like right away we're like, we need Ghost Scepters. That's how we're going to win this game, easy mode. And sure enough, it paid off. Like, except for probably one, where, like you said, 2 people popped the Ghost Scepters. It was like Spectre's like, ow, this hurts. Like, why is there no one else to bounce to? But, aside from that randomness, I mean, it really... was a great way to counter him out. And Spectre going the Sanjin Yasha after Blade Mail. So, did you like that build?
It was interesting. I also was interesting that we saw the Saint Yasha come out on Nyx as well when Alliance ran it.
Yeah.
An item pickup that we don't get to see that often, but I think it's a great item for just brawling in the middle of team fights and for also trying to decently increase your farm. I mean, it almost feels like a scaled up personal drums for you. You get to be able to apply the maim, you get some durability, you also get the movement speed from the Yasha. And that's why Yasha is like one of the best farming items because of the movement speed on top of the damage and the attack speed it gives you through the agility. I mean, it's a phenomenal item for helping you move around. And of course, we're talking about this being on a Spectre too, so you're trying to get the illusions to proc this. You're trying to make sure your illusions are keeping up on top of people since you're not going for the Radiance build. And so, I mean, I liked it quite a bit. And when you consider how much damage is coming out from the Storm Spirit in bursts, the Nature's Prophet in bursts, being able to send some of that back through the Blade Mail, I think is a really strong choice. Especially when you consider these not going dispersion on top of this.
That's true. I mean, but when he eventually does get it, then it's like, I dare you to attack me. Like, you are going to pay heavy for this. So, yeah, it definitely, he didn't even need the heart at that point. The Sage gave a lot of health for that as well. But yeah, I honestly thought it was good for the game that he had it in. You know, you definitely need to build for the game. Diffusal for different games probably be better than other situations, that kind of thing. But the way it was going, I really thought that was. I don't know about Blade Mail first. I think it was maybe because he wasn't going dispersion that he was like, all right, I think this damage reflect will help me early game tank it up. And so that's probably why he did it. But he could have probably gotten away with going maybe the Sanjin Yasha first. But obviously, everything worked out for them really well. On Alliance, though, they built 2 Orchids. They went Nature's Prophet Orchid, as well as the Storm Spirit. Now, Storm Spirit, very typical he'll get one of those, especially against heroes like Timbersaw and Bat Rider. But then the Nature's Prophet also going an Orchid, I wasn't a big fan. What did you think?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's some really easy targets on the other side of the board between the Crystal Maiden, the Timbersaw. I think they're great people to be able to try and silence. If you're able to get in on top of the Bat Rider and just sort of silence him and try and stop him from laying down the napalm, which actually what seemed to be so prevalent. I mean, you saw the attempts that EGM tried to get away from certain team fights, from relocating out in the first place or something, and just the slow was just so. Even with the 1 stack where he's trying to outrun the Elder Titan, he's not able to do it because of the 1 stack of the napalm. I think there are a lot of valid targets for it, but yeah, I mean, if they really needed to, I don't necessarily know. I mean, I certainly see where it could have been devastating in the team fights, but there might have been other item choices for him to go.
I just think that the Sheep Stick would have been something better to rush, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's valid. I mean, especially because you have Spectre who's not going for BKB, would obviously not like to go for BKB, because he is, like, while the BKB is a great item that lets you just get in there and fight, I feel like for Spectre, it's not as huge. I mean, I think you would rather have other durability items, or you might want to have more damage items in there, like the S&Y that's going to help him farm as well when he gets those opportunities to split push and then haunt in. The BKB I feel like is that item when I need to physically be there to participate, and Spectre doesn't necessarily need that because he can use the ultimate. He can wait for some of these other spells to go off and then look to come into the fight.
Yeah, and I mean also against Bat Rider and against even Timbersaw. I mean, these heroes that are so mobile. To get a CC, you look at Alliance's lineup, Storm Spirit's, he's the only one with a real CC. The rest of them do not have one. So, I mean, Tether, yeah, but you got a position for that. It's not as easy to get off. So, I feel like a Sheepstick would have added tremendous amounts of help if he could have gotten it in a timely fashion. Which, of course, he wasn't having the best day against Timbersaw. But he wasn't, obviously, Nature's Prophet's going to get his farm. He's just going to get that money. That's unavoidable. So, I mean, I'm not going to put the blame of the game on it. I'm just saying I think it might have suited them better, needless to say.
Yeah. I mean, this whole series was just great, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, how can you hate seeing the rematch of, the biggest tournament to date? But the thing that I loved the most about was just at the end where you had Vost and Loda trading jerseys and, accepting their prizes, in the other team's garb. I mean,
there's a lot of respect.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect, and that's the thing. Like you have rivalries in other sports that might be nastier between teams, and it was just nice to get to see that these guys recognized that they both played well. Now, Starladder being one of the bigger land tournaments outside of the international, so maybe not as much, respect or fame to be gained from this, but they've sort of now almost tied it up for these big tournaments in recent past, and they're sort of building up to be this rivalry. I mean, it's not crazy to think that these are the top two teams in Europe when they're playing at LAN tournaments. So it's nice to sort of get to see a rivalry build up, but also it's one that's built on just mutual respect and understanding that the other players on the other side are great players and a great team.
Yeah, let's hope that MLG can do something similar over here in North America. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, there's always hope. There's always hope. But yeah, I think we covered that pretty well. And like you said before, we're going to try to get that other viewer question. Please keep posting comments, questions, suggestions, everything on either Facebook or YouTube. We love Twitter, email, Zmail, whatever you got. Ooh. We'll take. But we really love to hear from you. And I think you wanted to say what your idea was for our next episode.
Oh yes, you can also send via snail mail any kind of suggestions. Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois 60652. I think is the address. But yeah, we had this great idea. We're like, you know what? There are a lot of people out there, myself included, in some cases, where you don't really get an appreciation for necessarily the teams that are going up here, the individual players, sort of the team mentalities, the way they like to play. So we're going to try and do our next cast, unless Legion Commander comes, fingers crossed, centering around one great old team that has been around for a while in at least the sponsor name, the Empire. I'm going to take a look at them really closely, watch a couple of games that they've played in, and really get to talk about each of their players individually, the kind of stuff that they're doing that we think is awesome and interesting, and really helped lead them to a lot of success in this tournament, taking a top placing. So, yeah, if you guys have any other teams that you'd like us to sort of go over and discuss, you guys are, of course, welcome to drop those by our Facebook, our YouTube, or our Scruff McGruff snail mail address. So, until next time, go out there and play some Dota, guys. I know you and IJ have had a lot of fun watching games this week.